77, 78, and we were kind of the big cheese in town. We had all the advertising dollars because the newspaper was terrible. And then we heard these people from Boston were coming up, and lo and behold, they knew what they were doing, and the papers got better, and our piece of the pie got a little smaller. But we discovered these awful people were actually nice, and we started playing tennis together, and every Wednesday the paper was put to bed, the paper was out, and we'd go over to Waterford Springs, and we'd have a wonderful time playing tennis. And this friendship grew, and we decided maybe we should have a little rivalry. And we would be the WLTN Vibes, and they were the Courier Scribes. And we'd have a baseball game at Apthorpe Common in Littleton. And it would be a big build-up to it. We would have some audio on the station about the terrible scribes and what they were doing. And you can't imagine the things that they wrote in the newspaper about us. And we had our own shirts, and we'd have these games.
You did, we did.
Well, you bought them for us. And one night, I remember, we had this for a series of years, and one night, we were there, we warmed up, we were ready to go, and we thought, the cowards, they aren't going to show up. And all of a sudden, in the middle of the diner, the stretch limo pulled up, and they all hop out. And after the game, I don't know who won the games or whatever, but wait till I'm 91. But then we'd all get out to the clamshell and have several pictures of beer. It was wonderful.
I still miss the clamshell.
Yep, but Doug always said, make friends with your competitors. And we certainly did. It's been a long, wonderful friendship. And one year, we were playing the profile member guest. This picture is over there. And Pete and I played against Doug and Judy. And Pete and I squeezed it out, and we won. And we have never heard the end of it since. We had to move the venue from down here because it rained, and we went to the White Mountain School. And Pete and Judy kept complaining about, Doug and Judy kept complaining about the floor being too slippery, can't see anything. And Pete and I just plugged along and won. It was wonderful.
One more question.
Yeah.
You can tell when you refer to Doug how much you loved him.
Oh, yeah.
And he died young. And just a little bit of advice for some of us that may go through that in our lives. What got you through it?
Well, my kids were huge help. Huge help. The other thing is, we talked about him a lot. And it was very nice. Once in a while, I still meet somebody who says, oh, I remember seeing Doug walk down Main Street with an ice cream cone in his hand. Or somebody else will say, he used to come and make us buy ads. So it was nice. We talked about him a lot, and we still do talk about him all the time. Probably too much, but yeah. But anyway, he was a great guy. I still miss him.
Yeah. Thank you, Phoebe. Yvonne's turn.
Wait. Here. Judy, I just don't want it. I'm not COVID savvy.
She's going to live to 110, remember?
Thank you, Yvonne, for coming. So, I think the early life for you were born in New York.
New York City, yeah.
New York City. And you told me a lot about remembering, the Depression and what you had to do as a family to get through that.
Okay.
So,
Well, my father and mother came over here in 1927, and then first came the Prohibition. That's 29 to 30?
29.
I don't know when it ended. He came over as a waiter from France. He had a very proper French accent, etc. So everything closed, and then came the Depression, or the recent Depression. So we had no money. My mother, my sister, and they all decided for us that we should move to England because my grandmother was there and my mother's family was there. So my sister and I, my mother went, and if he could not have found a job, we would have been British. But he finally did find a job, and then we came back. But in the meantime, I was like 2.5, so I learned English with a British accent. So I spoke with a British accent until I went to American kindergarten. And I've changed a lot since then.
She obviously picks up accents very well. Maybe you'll get my New Bedford accent.
And so, so what was I saying about, no, there was something I wanted to say, I forget what it is. But anyhow,
About coming back with your British accent.
oh yeah, oh no, yeah, oh so, yeah, I spoke about that. And then I ate like a European until I went to college. And it was so embarrassing that I didn't change my knives and forks. So very quickly I became an American eater.
And tell me about why you went to Syracuse.
Oh, you're quiet. I followed my boyfriend. And so what happened was, my first husband, Bob Crimley, was in the Marine Corps, and he did not have physics. So he needed physics to go to college. So he came back to the high school to take physics, and guess who was in his class? So that's how we met. And then he graduated, and then he went to Syracuse, and then 2 years later I followed him. And the rest is history. We did, I can say this in front of mixed company, we did everything together. Eat, studied, went to class, worked in the student union.
Yvonne?
The only thing we didn't do was sleep together. That was verboten. So I said, you know what, Bob, we could really save money if we got married. Which was true. We were both living in dorms, and so we got married. We decided Thanksgiving, and we got married at Christmas.
So you
And-
proposed?
Well, it was kind of understood.
That's so typically Yvonne. Of course she proposed.
I can see that.
So anyhow, that was how we got together.
And you had a lot of memories of World War II, like what you had to do as a kid and your fears then. And we talked about comparing it to what's going on with COVID today. Can you explain that a
Well,
little
I
bit?
think it's, well, as a child, it was very different. But now I think it's more real with us. World War II, it was always over there. And what we did was we saved cans and flattened them, and then they came and picked up cans. We saved newspapers. And that was about it. Rationing, no butter, meat, the gasoline. You had a little sticker on your car of how much gas you could buy. And that was really the only effect the war had.
And you raised 2 daughters of your own, and then you adopted 2. Can you tell us how that came to
Well,
be?
I didn't adopt.
Oh, okay, raised.
Yeah, my sister was compromised, and Shelley was 11, and it was a terrible situation. And Shelley was going to run away, and she had run away once. I didn't tell you that. She had run away once to Michigan, where her father was. And so she came back, and she told her mother she was going to run away again if she couldn't live with Auntie Yvonne. So my sister called me up, and of course I would. But my sister did nothing but give me a hard time. But anyhow, as I told you, I'm very proud of Shelley, because she is a lovely lady. She's married, has 2 children, and we're still very much in touch. And then my stepdaughter.
Right. Tell us about Lou first, and then
So
your stepdaughter.
Lou and I met, we were put together in a paddle tennis tournament in Scarsdale, New York. And he was a great big guy, as was Doug. And so playing mixed doubles, he was always there in the middle because he was so tall. And then after he stopped playing, I started playing with women again. And they'd say to me, Yvonne, that's your shot, because I was giving her. But anyhow, we lost in that tournament. We lost the consolation. And he said, maybe we should play during the week. I said, okay. And one thing led to another, and then we had dinner, and then, So,
And then you raised his daughter also?
oh, yeah, so then Susan was 8 when her mother died. And so Lou and I got together. He knew I was a mother, so help me God, he would not have married me if I had been a lousy mother. I feel that to this day. So anyhow, 2 years later we got married, and the rest is history. And so she's a wonderful girl. You all probably have seen her. Yeah, she's great.
We'll talk about that later. I had this other thought, but
What?
it pertains to me. And when I first met Lou, you had a cocktail party for us to meet other members. So Kevin and I were so nervous. We're from Lincoln, there's like no Lincoln members up here, at the time.
That's right.
I have this accent, I have no college education.